You mentioned you suffered from ADD, attention deficit disorder, yourself, and were drugged for it. Explain your own story.
Well, I was in my early 50s, and I was working in palliative care at the time. I was coordinator of a palliative care unit at a large Canadian hospital. And the social worker in the unit, who'd just been diagnosed as an adult, told me about her story.
Just been diagnosed as an addict?
An adult.
An adult?
Yeah, this social worker was diagnosed at age 38.
Oh, as an adult,
no, as an adult.
ADD.
And as a physician, I was like most physicians who know nothing about ADD. Most physicians really don't know about the condition. But when she told me her story, I realized that was me. And subsequently, I was diagnosed. And
what was that story? What did you realize was you?
Oh, poor impulse control a lot of my life, impulsive behaviors, disorganization, a tendency to tune out a lot, be absent-minded, physical restlessness. I mean, I had trouble sitting still. All the traits, that I saw in the literature on ADD, I recognized in myself, which is kind of an epiphany in a sense, because you get to understand, at least you get a sense of why you're behaving the way you're behaving. What never made sense to me right from the beginning, though, is the idea of ADD as a genetic disease. And not even after a couple of my kids were diagnosed with it, I still didn't buy the idea that it's genetic, because it isn't. Again, it has to do with, in my case, very stressed circumstances as an infant, which I talked about on the previous program. In the case of my children, it's because their father was a workaholic doctor who wasn't emotionally available to them. And under those circumstances, children are stressed. I mean, children are stressed when their brains are developing. One way to deal with the stress is to tune out. You
mentioned you described this in a previous interview, but describe it now. Describe your youth.
So I was a baby in Budapest, Hungary in 1944, born in January, 2 months before the Germans occupied Hungary. Jewish parents. My father was away in forced labor. My grandparents were killed in Auschwitz. My mother was a very stressed and depressed woman who could barely assure my own survival. And at a certain point, I was separated from her for a number of weeks at 11 months of age. She obviously couldn't give me a sense of comfort and ease and attuned communication. Her life itself was in danger, and mine. And so her focus was simply on survival. Under circumstances like that, the child's brain just doesn't get the kind of emotional input that the circuits need for their healthy development. But it doesn't have to be as dramatic as that, you see. All you need is people who are very stressed in their lives, as under the current economic crisis, for example. In Windsor, Ontario, which is a twin city of Detroit, and therefore an automaking town in Canada, in 2009, the number of visits for childhood mental health disorders went up 50%. Now, so what happens is the parents are stressed because of their economic status and the uncertainty, and the children are diagnosed with mental health disorders.